Hello, welcome to Pink Mike Leo Confessions. Hello to our viewers. Thanks for following us in our show today. You're in for a good treat today. We're actually having a wonderful guest that you don't know, and hopefully you learn something new, as you always do when you come here. But as you all know, my name is Stephanie Garces Dene. I'm the attorney and founding partner of Garces Law Firm, where we help parents protect their legacy and their children in the event of an unexpected absence. Today, I'm here with my colleague Tina Aronson, who's a broker at App Properties, but also a well-respected member of the equestrian community. She knows a lot about the equestrian life and what it's like to really just balance your life outside of work with some of the stuff that you actually enjoy. So we're going to talk about that today. Tina, thank you so much for joining me. Can you give us some more information about you, your background, and how you got involved with the equestrian community?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I guess I grew up riding a little bit when I was younger, and then it kind of goes by the wayside because it's expensive, and life happens, and you're young, and you can't really afford things. So, kind of had to wait until I got a little bit older to be able to, sell a few homes. uh, so yeah, that's pretty much like how I got back into it, and just kind of just started taking some lessons. I lived downtown Chicago at the time and just kind of wanted a little bit of an escape to get out of the city, and it was great. It was great. That's kind of how I got started in it.
Well, that's awesome. And was it always the community that you knew it to be? Because that's one of the things I know. I know you for a while now, and I know that the equestrian community, I think in Illinois, my understanding is that it's one of the biggest. And so, with COVID restrictions coming to an end, so we hope, and better weather, are these outside youth sports and other things something that people are going to be doing more? It's kind of the topic of what we're talking today. So, one of the I know one of your personal passions is riding. So, horseback riding and equestrian sports. And like I was mentioning, a little known fact is Illinois has one of the strongest equestrian communities to in the entire U.S., which is interesting because I feel like there's so many other places that countries maybe or even states for that matter that have like riding and horses and ranches, and it's like us of all people, it's just kind of interesting. So today we're going to talk about a couple of programs that are available, at least potential questions for anyone that has questions regarding the topic. So let's get started. How did you know that you wanted to get involved in the equestrian community? How did you really become so active in it? Because I know you work like a lot of our viewers. So how did you actually make time to get involved with community and actually be a big part of it?
Well, I guess it's obviously, it's a passion. Um, you have to be really interested in something like this. It's either you're in it or you're not, pretty much. Um, so I just kind of slowly just started to like get more involved with it, and it was just something that I love animals. Um, and it's something that you can do year round, and yeah, it's just it's definitely like either you love it, or, it's like either you don't mind getting dirty. It's a place you can go pretty much anytime, and there's all sorts of different disciplines, so depends on what you want to do. So I feel like there's a little bit something for everyone. And it's social. You meet a lot of people along the way. So yeah, it's a great, especially with COVID going on. I think with horses and anything outdoor, golf was big during COVID. So it was just nice. I felt like my life didn't really change all that much. I was able to just I still went to the barn. I still saw my horses. I still did, I live on a small farm. So I was able to do pretty much everything that, my life didn't stop. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's great. Well, and you may know more about this, Tina, being at the barn and kind of seeing people that are taking lessons. I mean, what type of programs are available for the youth that are looking to enter the sport?
There's all sorts of disciplines. I mean, you can, if you wanted to be more like Western style, they have the barrel racing, they have all sorts of like Western pleasure riding. There's pretty much competitions for anything that you want to do. If you don't want to compete, you just want to just ride around the ring or just trail ride or, there's all sorts of different levels. And depending on how you want to take it, what level you want to take it to, there's pretty much, something for everyone. So you can, I live in Wayne, which is a equestrian community. So we have Lamplight, and it's a place for in events, all sorts of different horse events. And so they have all sorts of disciplines, dressage, hunter jumpers, and jumpers, eventing. There's the big hunt, the fox hunters that are out here. So we pretty much, there's definitely something for everyone. It just kind of depends on which direction you want to go in and what level and how much time and money you want to put into it. Because it's not something that's, it's not cheap by any means.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, what about the kids? I mean, or how young do you have to be to start lessons, or how young?
Pretty much walking.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. A lot of, the trainers, they kind of want the kids to be, I think are probably around like 5 years old. So they can, just so they can communicate with them a little bit. But, if they have a parent who, they already have horses or whatever, they're putting those kids up on those horses, pretty much when they're babies, and just, being around the horses. And so it's just, to them, it's second nature.
That's crazy. I mean, I would think, and maybe the people in the equestrian community are like, yeah, that's how you do it. But like, I think like 5 years old, it's so young. But maybe that's the way to teach the youth, right? Because otherwise I think it's so natural for anyone to be afraid of a horse. The first time I got on a horse, I swear I thought, I hope that this horse does not overreact on something and I fly off, because that's the first thing I think. But that's good to know. Now, I know you talked about different styles of riding. Can you kind of explain the difference between like Western style as opposed to the other styles that you've learned?
Yeah, the Western style, it's this, they have the saddles are a little bit bigger. You have the horn that's in front. A lot of people start out that way just because it's a little bit, they feel a little safer in the saddle because it's bigger and it's, you're kind of locked in there a little bit more. But, it just, there's one discipline is not any better than another. So it just depends on, I think it depends on like who guides you, where you grow up. I feel like if you're more like out west, you're probably going to be a little bit more Western style. If you're on the East Coast, you're going to be more English, style. Out here, I feel like it's a little bit of a mix, but mostly English. I feel like that's most of the people that I've, run into and, socialize with and, whatnot. So. Yeah.
So Tina, what is English style? Like how would like a person like myself who does not ride, how would I know? Like if I see you riding or someone, how do you know the difference? Like I know you said you explained Western, but what is English?
English, the saddle's a little bit, it's just a different style. You're a little bit more, the saddle is a lot different. It's a little bit, they call like close contact saddle. So you don't have, you're not really locked into it. You can kind of, if you need to jump over something, you can kind of get yourself up and out of the saddle. Your legs are a little bit higher. Western style, your legs are a little bit more relaxed. A little bit, I don't want to say lazier or whatever, but it's a little bit more relaxed, type because you're not going to be jumping in like a Western saddle or anything like that. So yeah, it's just a different, yeah. So English is a little bit more like your form and your conformation. They judge you on all sorts of different, the way you sit in the saddle, the way your horse moves, all of that. So yeah.
So, okay, I see. I didn't know the difference. So it really just me, but to the viewers, because I can some of the people watching are not within the equestrian community like yourself, so they may need to just have. You're going to dumb it down for us a little bit. Okay, so here's another question: what about the parents that are watching and are wanting to get their kids to do this competitively? I mean, obviously you can do this for leisure, but actually, I do know a family that had their child in the competitive sporting of riding. And what do parents do to get to that level? What should they be aware of when it comes to that, or what should they expect?
I mean, I think they kind of have to start them a little bit young. Kids are fearless.
Yeah.
So they don't have the same, when you start as an adult, you start thinking about things, and, when you fall, or, bones break a little bit longer to heal, or, you don't recover from that bruise as easily. Where kids, they don't even think about that. They just, boom, they bounce right up, and they have, they have a lot of bounce and resistance to their bodies. So they don't even think about that. They're used to just, when they start walking, they fall all the time, and get back up, and they just move along. And that's what happens, when you ride horses. I mean, you're, somewhere down the line, you're probably going to fall off. And kids, they don't think twice about it. They just hop back on and go. So they're just, starting them young is key. They have to, I would recommend just, go to your local, the local barns around where you live, and, start taking some lessons, and go to different ones and try different trainers. And, the trainer is really important. You need somebody who you kind of connect with, that you're, either maybe your kid, they have some things in common with their kids or families or whatever it is, that kind of thing. So that's a kind of a big deal. You want to try different trainers and see who's a good fit and who kind of connects with your kid or with you. And go that route, and then kind of pick one, somebody, and that's, you want to kind of stick with them. But lessons are really good. You could start that way, and then maybe eventually get yourself like to a point where share boarding or leasing, or the kid can just do volunteer work. There's a lot of organizations where there's maybe rescue programs or whatever, where the kids can, donate their time and maybe get some free lessons. That's a good way to kind of start out, and see if it sticks with them, just like with any sport. So.
Yeah, those are great resources, actually, Tina. And could you elaborate a little bit about that? Like, for example, that the volunteering. I mean, where do people volunteer? Do all the barns allow anyone to volunteer, and then they could exchange for lessons, or is it just certain barns that do those types of programs?
Yeah, I mean, some of them, they're not all that way. You just have to kind of check in to see if they offer that kind of a program, and see if they're, if that's something that they do, or maybe go to like a rescue and say, hey, like, I want to volunteer my time, that kind of thing. And you learn a lot. You start learning a lot about, the health of the horse. Just learning how to just take care of them. And that's most of it, taking care of them. You're going to do that more than you are actually riding, you're going to groom them, bathe them, and, pick their feet and clean up after them and muck some stalls. And, those are all things that are really important.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think it just dawned on me when you talk about like writing and stuff like that. For the viewers, I don't know. It sounds like what Tina's explaining is like, it sounds like it's not just you hop on the horse and you get off. It's not like a ride. You actually need to care for the horse, make sure the horse is healthy. And I know that there are vets that specifically are for horses, and I know horses in general are, well, a lot of maintenance, because they're living animals and they're beautiful animals, but I think you have to take care of them. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. Are there any other resources that parents should look out for when it comes to, having their kids be riders, or maybe they're not happy where they're at? Is there anywhere that you would point them for like resources to learn more?
I mean, I don't really have like, it just kind of depends on where you live. And just, I think just trying, it's interesting. So when I lived in the city, Groupon was like huge then, like this was like years ago. And, I felt like at that time there was a Groupon for everything. So I started noticing all these like horseback riding places that were throwing Groupons here and there. And I just like, every time I saw one that popped up, I just pretty much just bought it just to try out the facility and get in there and just be able to just have a reason just to walk in the door, basically. So that's just, just, I feel like, just, probably just need to Google and see who's closest to you and just try as many as you can, and go that route. You want to be, closer to your house. You don't want to be driving, obviously, like an hour away to be able to do something like this. So it's important to find something, because if you do get into the part where you want to maybe own your own horse, you want the barn to be somewhat close to your house. So it's really important to be able to utilize, the resources around you. So, or you be like me and just move and buy a farm.
I love that. And we'll talk about my farm later, because I feel like that's one of the things that I know in the equestrian community. I mean, without going into the weeds, because I want to. There's a couple people that joined us. So I want to jump into that in a second. But the farm thing. I mean, it sounds like that is one of those things where I think if you take it really serious, and like that could be a lifestyle thing too, because if you have your farm, you can have your horses in your farm,
Right.
as opposed to having to go. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot more work. I'll admit that. It's fun. It's fun, but it's a lot more work, and we definitely don't get to go on all those vacations that we used to be able to go to, because I feel like they're my children and I'm too scared to leave them. So
Yeah. The horse.
yeah.
If you do go, I mean, where do you, or do you have to board them? I guess you have to board them, right? If you left town.
Yeah, you can. So I have one horse that I board in the wintertime, so I can kind of ride her, and then I have two others on the property that I keep here. So there are boarding facilities. I have a barn that I can, like, as a go-to. I can go and I board the one horse during the wintertime, and then bring her home when the weather's a little bit nicer. And then, if I was, I normally, what I do when I leave to go on vacation, I'll have somebody stay at my house and pet sit, because I also have a dog and chickens and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I definitely need someone to like stay here and like help and take care of everything for me, and just kind of be me for the time that I'm gone. So, yeah.
Necessary. So a couple people just joined us. I just want to recap. Thank you for those of you that just joined us. My name is attorney Stephanie Garces-Stoney. I'm the owner of Garces Law Firm, where we help you prepare for the unexpected and help parents with the life transitions of a growing family, or perhaps a change in what's going on in their personal life. So today I'm here with my colleague, Tina Aronson, who's a realtor at Properties, but also happens to be a really, really strong force in the equestrian community, knows a lot about riding, and actually we'll dive into a little bit, but she knows a lot about balancing life and play, right? Because I think work is so consuming, everyone, especially with everything opening back up. People are looking for a way, how can I make time to do the things that I love, otherwise, you don't make time for it. So we're going to cover equestrian sports and horseback riding today. So if you missed our last episode, we talked about mortgage modification in the United States, and we actually have the recap of that in our YouTube channel. Just look up Garces Law Firm, and we do have it there. You can always check back on our Facebook page too, because I have a recap there. So you're always welcome to join us here on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Central Time, where we cover really important topics and stuff that can help parents and guardians, or maybe just you in general. If you're none of those, you could still chime in, because it's really nice to have viewers that are interested in the topics we talk about. So I know a lot of people have questions for Tina, so let's jump right in. because someone had asked me previous to this, because they said that we were doing this, they messaged me and said, I've heard horseback riding is really expensive, which I think we've established that. But how do I control or manage the costs for my child for this sport? So that's a good question.
I guess the biggest, yeah, so that's a really good question because it is, I'll be honest, it is very expensive. I think it's one of the most expensive sports that's out there. You're dealing with, if you own a horse, you're dealing with, the cost of the board, the feed, if it needs extra supplements. The veterinarian, the pretty much like I don't go a month without a vet bill arriving in the mail. So yeah, it is very, very expensive. Yeah, but it can be done in, somewhat inexpensive. So, if you start taking lessons, you could kind of rent if you take, if your child takes lessons with a trainer, they may have a horse there that they can show at a horse show. And maybe they could just pay like a fee to just use the horse for the weekend at the show. They can do something like that. Or if they want to take it to another level, they can lease the horse or share board it. That's always a good thing. And then you're only responsible for part of the bills, part of the board, part of the the feed and the care and whatnot. And, maybe you ride the horse like 3 or 4 days out of the week, that's, a better option, if you're, and, when you own a horse, it's a commitment, they live to be, into their 30s, and it's not something that, you're not getting a goldfish, a dog may live like somewhere between like 10 to 15 years, where a horse lives 30 something years, and it's expensive. It's an expensive animal to have. So it's a major commitment. You have to really know that's something that your child's going to want, for a long time, or you're willing to take on that responsibility, maybe even if they, go on to college or whatnot, if they can't, if you can't afford to send the horse to college with the kid. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Those are great things to think about, Tina, because when you said 30 years, I was like, wow, that's a long time, especially if it's just sometimes kids will have a sport that they do for, I don't know, maybe a season, and then they don't like it. So this is something more of a stronger commitment. But that's, I do know, though, again, the equestrian community is pretty big in Illinois. I know people that are in it are pretty loyal. Like, I've never heard someone say I had a horse and then I changed my mind. Like, I've never heard anyone say that. Like, for the most part, people with horses are in it and they're committed. So it's always interesting to hear about that. What about like parents and even, we should say, individuals that ride horses competitively, or parents that have children? Do they need to compete like locally? Is it out of state? Where are the competitions held at if they want to compete?
It's all over. They're all over. You can, they have different levels of shows. So, they have the high rated like A shows. You could travel around. You can go to, they go to Ocala or Wellington, Florida in the winter times to compete. You can go to Kentucky, Tennessee, all those areas to compete, or you could just stay local and just compete locally. So you don't have to do, you don't have to fly your horse places or trailer them places. You don't have to, go to that level. You can just stay local and do maybe some of like the schooling shows or the lower, like, like the B shows, something like that. And that's just good practice, and it's just fun, but then there's also a competitive side to it. So that's a better way to get into it and, do some things and feel like you're contributing and competing and whatnot. And it's, but you're not spending a ton of money. Like a show can cost you $2,000 for a weekend, just for one show. You may be able to get away from just doing a schooling show for maybe like maybe around $500.
Okay.
For the weekend.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty expensive, I think, especially if I'm thinking about like the parents that have a budget, like, to budget that, every so often. So does it matter where you go? I think if you travel, is it more expensive than if you were to stay local? Or
yeah,
yeah, maybe
yeah, it's Yeah, yeah. So if you travel, it's going to be a lot more expensive. You're going to be having to stay in hotels. You're going to have to pay to trailer your horse down to like wherever you're going. And that could, if you go to in the wintertime, if you're going to compete in say Ocala or something like that, that could be, $6,000 round trip just to get the horse there and back. Just for that alone.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
See,
yeah,
well, I mean, but I think like it's not crazy, I guess, if it's your passion and that's what you do. I mean, for those of you watching that are thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. I mean, people pay thousands of dollars to do hockey, to do golfing, to do,
right.
but it's
Everything's
really money. Yeah, it's not always about the money. I think it's like the benefits, and kind of going off of that really quick. One of the things that I personally wanted to know, because I know we had talked about this, is how do you make time for your hobby? Because if you're anything
I
like
have no
me, yeah,
choice.
like like
I have no choice.
everyone's so busy, like between like running your
Mhm.
business, or perhaps working for somebody that you're so at work all day, raising your
Yeah.
family. I mean, because everyone has obligations, personal and work related. But how do you make time, and how would you suggest our viewers make time for the stuff that they're passionate about?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I kind of have no choice. I live in a farm. We do all our own work around here. So, I am the one that's cleaning the stalls. I'm the one that's grooming the horses. My husband helps as well. But like pretty much like we don't hire help to do
Oh,
to do a lot of those things. So, so if I have a meeting that I have to get to and early in the morning, and say like my husband can't help me, it's just get up earlier and go and do it. Or if there's, if I just have to basically block it like as if it's a meeting. If I need to, if it's something that I need to exercise my horse, because it's not always about me. You still have to, it's not just about riding and having that fun. It's also, you need to exercise that horse. You need to exercise
yep,
yourself just to stay in it. And
yeah,
you just have to block it off like as if it's a meeting or something like that. I have been known to show houses like in between riding. So like I'll show up to the barn, I'll be changing clothes in the car. Or sometimes I show up to show a house and I'm in my riding clothes. So sometimes like it depends on the client, like sometimes they're
especially.
if
Uh, well, I was going to say too,
yeah.
if you have clients that are in the equestrian community, because I know we have had people that we've met right along the way that are
Yeah.
equestrian community that rely on you for both, to rely on you to
Yeah.
like show passion, but also want you to show a house at the same time, which
Right.
is phenomenal. But yeah, I'm so glad you're saying that because I've personally felt this myself, and recently I'm trying to balance, and I think you just hit it on the head there with how do you balance? How do you balance when you have so much to do, going to bed earlier, waking up earlier, and like putting it in your calendar, which is kind of why it's no different than like signing up for like a boot camp class. Like if you pay for it, you're
Hmm.
going to be there, and the time they told you to
Right.
be there. You're forced to do it.
Exactly.
But yeah, because a lot of times people will always complain about that, especially at least for the attorneys that I know, they all say the same thing. I don't have time. Oh, I used to be able to do that, but now I have to work more or have a young child. But
Mhm.
it kind of sounds like you have to prioritize me time. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. Like you treat it like, when you make the time for what's important. And so whether that be, your obviously your job is important, but and yeah, I have those days where I have no choice, like something crazy happens with work or I get called to do something or whatever, or I have to veer off in a different direction. And maybe, I had planned on riding that day and then
Yeah.
now I can't, I can't do that. So then I make it a point, okay, where do you have time? What do you need to change to be able to fit that in? And it's important. Like people, I hear parents all the time, they're always, they're very into their kids' sports, but they never do anything for themselves. And
Yeah.
just like their kids, like it's a sport is really important for their kids. Well, it's important for them too. They have to have a life. They have to be able to do
Right.
things. And it's not just, your life isn't just about something else. You have to be able to multitask and do different things. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that information, because I was just trying to figure this out myself, because I'm like, it didn't, being in writing and doing writing just seems like a big commitment, because it's like you can't just show up and do something. It's like there's so much prep time, it sounds like, ahead of time. So
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
you definitely have to plan like a few hours for it. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
it's not like you just go for 20
yeah,
minutes. You actually have to
yeah, right,
work on
right.
that.
So
Um,
yeah, that's really my favorite thing. My favorite home to sell is a farm
really?
because
Why is that?
I can show up in my riding clothes and I fit right in.
Okay, wait, I think we lost you. Could you say that one more time?
Oh,
What do you like about selling barns? Sorry about that.
oh, okay. I said my favorite type of home to sell is a farm because I can show up in my riding clothes and I fit right in. So it's almost like I'm in costume for the
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's
yeah,
funny, because I would imagine you can actually speak really intelligently about, you know, the proximity of the barn to the house and how you can use it, and the benefits. Because, like you said, I think if you're taking, uh, you know, riding seriously and it's part of your lifestyle, then having it in your backyard is what people would want, because why would you want to drive an hour, especially with the horse in the back? If you're bringing your own horse, I mean, that's too much work sometimes for people. So,
right.
well, and speaking of horses, so like, I know we had talked about this previously, but when is the best time to buy a horse? Because I know with COVID, I think things have changed, but in your opinion, when do you buy a horse, and how do you buy a horse?
I mean, you're definitely, when you purchase a horse, you should get a little help, and some guidance from, a trainer or somebody who can kind of look out for you and find, the horse, or somebody who's in the community that knows, of people selling horses. Because the last thing you want to do is buy a horse that's not, good for you or meant for
Right.
you, or maybe, somebody doesn't tell the truth on the abilities of the horse.
Okay.
And so you want to make sure that it's somebody who's well respected in the community, and you know what you're getting. So yeah, you kind of want to start there. You want to start taking, like I said in the beginning, lessons is, that's pretty much, priceless.
Yeah.
That's going to help you out a lot, and getting to know a trainer, and getting yourself in the community and around other horse people. So that's, and right now I feel like horses and houses, there are none.
Really? Give me
Yeah, they're just there. The market it's a seller's market, and same with horses.
Wow. Maybe
So
because everyone was at home and they're like,
because of
well, I want to ride every
COVID,
day. Yeah.
yeah, because it's a COVID, and people are like, I want to be outside. I want to be, like you're not shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
It's not like a,
Yeah.
you're people to people contact. You're not touching anybody else. You're not, you're pretty
That's
much
so
always at least 6 feet away from another human. So it's
yeah.
the perfect sport for, the pandemic.
That's interesting. So, what is the average cost for a horse? If someone wanted to buy one.
They're like cars. People ask me that all the time, and they're like cars. So you can buy a car for $2,
Mm-hmm.
or you could buy a car for $200,000. So that's the same thing with horses, and it
Okay.
just depends on what level discipline, what you want to do, all of
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So.
Interesting. So, what about like the stable costs? I know you talked about like the shared boarding option. So, what's the difference between a cost of somebody wanting to just board their horse on their own in their own barn and or stable, as opposed to someone sharing it?
Yeah, so I mean, if you own your own horse, you're going to board it, someplace. You're going to be spending, and that's this other thing. It depends on what level service that do you want out of a barn? Like some barns, it could be $1,500 a month, or other barns, it could be $500 a month, just depending on the type of care that, are you going to be there every day to like give the supplements? Are you going to be there every day to do, certain things, for the horse, or do you need help with that? Do you need someone to help you do that? So that's, it just depends on, how much money do you want to throw at it? How much time do you have? And then if you want to share board, you're basically paying, so you're sharing the board. So you're paying half. So, you're paying half of the board, and then it's like you and maybe somebody else, usually it's somebody who owns the horse and they're going to share board it out. So you'll pay whatever half that board is wherever you happen to be.
Okay, gotcha. So that would obviously like save you costs, but then you have to share the space, really.
Yeah. Well, you share the horse. So you may
Okay.
ride the horse 3 days a week, and that other person will ride the horse 3 days a week. So that's how that works. And then you would share like the farrier. That's the person who does, the hoof trimming and the shoes and all that. So you would share the expense on that. You would share the expense on the veterinarian bills, all of that. So.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So then if it comes down to it, if somebody wanted to share, they can technically share the horse as well.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, does that confuse the horse ever? I mean, I'm just curious because
Okay.
do the horse care? I mean, it sounds silly, but
Well,
like does it act differently with you? Because you know how pets are. Pets are the same way. They
yeah.
like one member of the family, not another one.
Yeah, I mean that definitely. I mean, horses do like pick their people. They definitely act different. Just like humans are. You're not going to like everyone. You're going to like some people better than other people. And the same thing with horses. Like it's gonna be the same way. Sometimes you make a connection with them, and sometimes you don't. But the beauty of share boarding, if you don't, if it's just not the horse for you, you can move on and possibly find a horse that you do kind of connect with. But they are, they're pretty smart. They can, certain people they'll act up with, and then other people they won't. So
That's funny. Do you think it's like animals? They know who treats them well, or
yeah.
don't have synergy with someone? And
Yeah. It's like an energy. If there's somebody, has a really super high strong personality, they're, maybe that horse doesn't like that, maybe they want to be a little bit more zen and chill and whatever. So they prefer that type of a person. So yeah, it's like, and maybe you're having like a really bad day that day, and then you walk into the barn and the horse will sense it. So yeah.
So that's interesting. I mean, I keep thinking to myself, like, gosh, like I would be in a bad position if my horse did not like me that day, because it knows I'm nervous. And I have to think that horses do know. If you've had a stressful day, if you've seen that you're riding them kind of, hard, and maybe like you seem nervous, they probably get the feeling. They probably understand because they has to. I mean, how would they not?
Right.
That's fascinating. Well, is there anything else that you'd want the equestrian community to know about you or about what you do, that we want to share today?
I don't know. I mean, I guess people just need to know, like it's definitely a passion, and either you're in it or you're not in it. And if you do want to purchase, a horse, it's a huge commitment. And you just have to think like long term what you're getting yourself into. This isn't something that it's not an easy thing to just change your mind later on. It's a huge commitment, and there's another being involved in this that needs to be taken care of. Same thing with like dogs or cats or whatever. It's a commitment. It's definitely a commitment. So yeah, otherwise there wouldn't be the rescue sites that, the rescue programs that are out there right now. So, But
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest things I wanted the viewers to know is that it is a resource. I mean, I actually think it's fascinating that there are rescues and they actually are looking for volunteers. So just another
yeah,
great parents can get their kids even immersed in that sort of sport.
right.
I,
Yeah,
I think everyone, especially if you don't come from a family that's part of the equestrian community or knows anything about riding, they may not know where to start. So that is
right.
a great resource that I think many would appreciate because at least it kind of touches on the topic of you don't always have to go to the local
Mhm.
barn. There's rescues, they're looking for help, and I know I did a lot of rescue work for dogs at Paws in Chicago, and I loved it. I mean, I really appreciated the work and the mission behind the place because it's one thing to rescue a dog, but when you actually work there, you start to realize like which dogs get adopted and which don't, and how much of a responsibility it is. And some people they take the dog and then they can't care for it. So same thing with the horse. I mean, it's a
Right.
huge. So I totally appreciate you saying that. Well, Tina, if anyone wants to contact you, where can they contact you?
Well, 773-216-0502, or you can email me. It's Tina Aronson at spelled out properties.com.
Okay, wonderful. And you
Mhm.
do have a Facebook page, business page, so hopefully
I
people
do.
will like it. You can check out Tina there. Tina, you always have really cool pictures of you and horses, so I want
Yeah.
you to post more of those. I can like
If you like,
them.
yeah, if you like my page, you have to be prepared for all the animal pictures.
There you go.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Tina, for
Yeah.
your time today. You've really and our viewers too, and really some of the parents that were watching, because the equestrian sport is not an easy one, and it sounds like it's a really big commitment. It's something you should really consider if you're going to be serious about it. So thank you for sharing your information and knowledge on that. I want to thank all of our viewers for your questions and also for just watching. I know some of you have been watching, and feel free to add any sort of questions that you have after the fact or at the bottom of the Facebook Live, and we'll certainly reach out to you. But if you have any questions for me, you can always contact me. You have my number. I always put it on the slide here. You can text or call this number. It's my office line, and we're happy to address any questions you may have. Even if it is about being part of the equestrian community or writing, I'll direct you to Tina. But if anyone that you speak to is looking for help with a will, a trust, real estate matters, especially planning for retirement, planning for the children, we can definitely help you start sooner than later, which is really important. So thanks again, everyone. A cherished opportunity for any free consults if anyone's interested. And please reach out to us if we can help you protect your legacy and your family, especially during these unprecedented times that we still are living in. So I invite you here next week on Pink Mike Legal Confessions, where we're going to talk about another topic. And hopefully you guys can give me more ideas. If you want to see anything in the show, feel free to message me. I've got a lot of good feedback so far. So thank you, Tina, once again. And we look forward to seeing everyone next week. Take care.